What's up, everybody? Welcome back into the Play the Fight Song College Football Show. Another off-season week is upon us, and tonight we are going another hour deep into college football talk all year long. So if you're brand new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are still on the road to 1K on YouTube, so head over to our YouTube channel at Play the Fight Pod and hit the subscribe button today and help us get there. Got some exciting show news coming up we'll share with you when the time is right. But the boys are all in the studio, and tonight's topic is the transfer portal opening. What a time it is. I just tweeted out on my personal account, boys. It's April Madness. March Madness is over. College football takes the reign. It is April Madness. How are we doing tonight, Jake?
Yeah, that's why, is it John Rothstein? He says we sleep in May. That's because he's referring to college basketball or college football in the transfer portal. He knows that March Madness and the Final Four ends the first week of April, but there's just too much portal buzz going around that we sleep in May, gentlemen, because we have 10 short days of this quick spring, stupid transfer portal window. But we have to talk about it because I think there's still a lot of moves to be made that can make a team a national title contender in just a couple of moves.
100%. JP, how we doing? We ready to talk a little portal? How we feeling? I saw Iowa had lost a DB today.
Yeah, I mean, nothing big, no big losses for the school yet. I don't think they're going to make any splashes. I think what the Hawks are doing is just filling holes in some spots with some depth pieces, a lot of G5 or group of 5 interest on some guys, and then as well as like a couple FCS level guys that they're looking to bring in. But, you know, it was hard to stay updated like with everything going on today in the portal because there was a lot of conflicting things on just like somebody would enter and it was hard to find information on that person because so many people entered in. So they're only really giving a lot of the media time to like those top 2 or 3 guys and then the Nico stuff as well. So it's hard to stay on top of it. And you kind of just have to like at some point take a step back and like look through all the names that are in it and really understand who you might have missed announcement wise, because some of them are just like one tweet from like Thamel or somebody. And then other ones are like massive announcements from the player too. So got to make sure you see all of them because there are pieces out there that I think definitely will help some teams, and then some other pieces that are going to make a name for themselves at their next stop.
Yeah, the names haven't been massive outside of a couple, I would say, but Lord knows when the transfer portal season comes around, who knows who's going to jump in the portal, what the conversations are behind closed door, but we'll do our best to cover it throughout this 10-day period that's going to be complete madness. Let's talk about this. Did you guys see today on X? Do you guys ever get like the notifications that are random, like just random people's tweets, and it tells you about it just for you to get, you know, the app back open and start scrolling through it? Did you ever get notifications like that?
I think I turned them off.
Oh, that's probably a better call because I don't know if you guys saw the fake Lenora Sellers account today.
Oh,
and I was like all in on texting you guys like, holy shit, how did this just happen? And it didn't even have like the community note next to it. When it pulled up my phone, it just said Lenora Sellers ... respect my decision. And so I immediately clicked this thing, right? I open it up. It's this graphic that looks like it could have been made by a player announcing it on his own. And then no community notes. I was like, oh my God, like this is as big as Nico. And here we are. So stop lying about it online, people. We're trying to follow along, and you make it significantly harder by all these burners in the burnerverse. So stop doing that. But all right, with that, let's go into some college football. Let's start off with the question of the day, presented by No Rivals, our good friends over at No Rivals. Shop norivals.com. Use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all premium collegiate headwear. They got new designs dropping by the day. There's some helmet designs coming out for some teams, some more Glory Days designs of retro corduroy hats. Check those out today at shopnorivals.com and use that code PTFS for free shipping on all of those awesome hats. Shout out No Rivals and the team over there. Now let's go to the question of the day. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, because this one's going to be fun. The question of the day: if you could flip the result of one game in college football history, what game would it be and why? Jake.
Okay, I will. This may be recency bias. This may be a little bit over dramatic, but
No, you?
yeah, that's not me. If I could redo one, I think it would be right now the Arizona State Texas game back in January.
Nice.
As a team who's in the Big 12, or a fan of a team who's in the Big 12, there was I think all 16 teams or all 15 teams were rooting for Arizona State that day for a multitude of reasons. The Big 12 is battling for like a branding in a power positioning within the rest of the P4. Maybe, the P2 schools left against the SEC, the Big 10. And a lot of people still think this way, that there's 0 Big 12 teams allowed in the playoff. And the only reason they were in is because of that auto berth. And for them to be fourth and 17 away from taking down your second best team in the SEC. Some regarded Texas as the best team in the SEC, probably your most talented. It just sucks. I think that would have been massive for the landscape, just the perspective of what people see Big 12 is. And kind of just gets thrown off afterthought now, I think. And maybe we'll start doing previews to these conferences in June and July. And we'll start to realize again, okay, no, there's some good Big 12 teams out there this year. They get a little more preseason respect. But I think it would have been huge going into the offseason next year for the Big 12 to try to. Jordan, you're looking at me like I'm.
You got it.
Is it me?
Your mic's got it pretty bad right now.
Oh my god!
But somebody do this. Somebody want to stop me?
I can't tell if it's me.
Like it caught up. Yeah, it sounded like it caught up for me, and then you kind of like you resumed, and then it would cut, and then it'd be good. It was weird. It was weird spurt. So I thought.
I don't need to read what I said. What did you hear?
Yeah, I understood what you were saying. It just kind of goes in and out in random spots. But, the Arizona State one for me, it's intriguing because of, I think if it was anybody but Texas, I'm curious if it would have gotten the same reaction. Like if they were playing Ohio State or if they were playing, one of those other big brands from just a non-Texas brand. I wonder if it would have gotten the same reaction. But I know that the Big 12 fan base and the fans of the Big 12 and those schools within it would have been on the same page still. I think there still would have been a big following. I'm just curious if it would have had like the same impact nationally, and then it to come down to the kind of game it was, right? Like if it was just a straight loss, I don't think it would be remembered as much, but to have a little controversy in it, have Texas try to lose it, come all the way back and then have a real shot, I feel like that definitely plays into that. But it's not a bad one though, because it definitely would have changed the narrative within the first year of the 12-team playoff. Like,
and the Big 12 in general.
Play. Yeah, the Big 12 can play. Like, why are we even hesitating here down the road?
One of the things I was interested, people maybe would have just been quick to assume they get blown out by Ohio State. I don't know. I think it's a better athlete than Quinn Ewers was. Or does Cam Scatterbo have another legendary game? I'm not saying they would have beaten Ohio State, but I think they would have been able to, punch a little bit towards Ohio State in that semifinal game.
I'd have been very worried about them stopping anything Ohio State tried to do offensively.
Well, that's not ever a discredit to Arizona State. I don't think anybody. No. I mean, anybody in that Ohio State.
But I'm saying, do it. I think I said that during the previews. I think Texas was the best matchup for Ohio State. Like I think they were very equipped to handle everything, and they did. It was just the offensive things, and then some. What was that? They throw a botched screen and then a bat. They ran the ball up the middle once. It didn't work, and they completely ditched the run. Isn't that like a goal line stand before the scoop and score to make it 21-7 Ohio State?
Yeah,
right?
Like go a toss or something.
Yeah, they went dive up the middle, stuffed, and I'm like, that's fine. Like you can kind of stay with it. I was like, well, to me, like for the fan, I was like, you can stretch things out a little bit, but to go that decision and then be like, we're just ditching the run, between the tackles, where I felt like they had the ability to score and to get stripped right there. I mean, we're 2 plays away from Texas playing for a national title. Like if we're being honest, so I think, that Arizona State one would have flipped pretty good. And then I think even if they would have lost by 2-3 scores to Ohio State, I think they would have been remembered pretty fondly.
I agree. All right, I like that one, Jake. Let's go to your team side of it now. Give us your fandom game you would have changed in the history of Iowa State.
As I'm adjusting my mic, let me know if it sounds any better. But honestly, kind of dumb to say, but I wish I could redo. Like I wish Iowa State could have beaten Arizona State and then been in the playoff. Again, I know super recency bias. I think being in the playoff right now, especially the first year, just does a lot for your program. I think Iowa State's fine. Looking back on it, it's not the end of the world, but just to have that opportunity would have been awesome. And maybe some Iowa State fans think, well, you wanted the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma in 2020 when it came down to one possession. That team wasn't guaranteed to get into the playoff. They still would have been the first team out had they won that year, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, just I'm always like that is my biggest goal right now. And you've heard me say it on the show, so I'm not gonna say it again. But like Iowa State getting to the playoff, just getting there is my lifelong fan goal at this point.
All right,
good word for it.
It's a fair place to put that one too. I mean, I thought maybe you would go like Liberty Bowl when Seth Hannigan took you for 500 yards. Because I don't know, did you watch the QB camp? This is just my shameless plug of another product. If you're not watching Gruden's QB camp with Seth Hannigan,
I haven't watched that one.
Oh, it's awesome.
Good one.
He goes, "You carved up Iowa State." Gruden gets fired up.
That's awesome. He did. He really did.
He carved up everybody, dude. He threw for 15,000 yards in 4 years. You can't really. It's not a discredit to anybody. But I love that. Check that out on YouTube over on Barstool's network. Gruden QB Camp is back, and it is some of the best football content I've seen in 10 years.
This is pretty accurate from GA. I am getting better, just not perfect. It's just a story of my life.
It's us as human beings, too. Shout out GA.
Yep.
Thanks for coming back to the show. All right, let's go to JP. JP, give us your one game in college football history that you would flip.
Yeah. This one's tough for me. I think there's a lot of options out there. It's hard to kind of think of a couple, but I'll go with one that I thought would change kind of the way we looked at in that time period in the BCS at smaller schools. If Pitt did not get West Virginia in 2007, right? Like you're looking at Pat White in West Virginia from the Big East playing for a national title. Like I kind of think things are looked at a little different. Maybe it stops the speed up of conference realignment and schools getting pushed out and all this stuff happening. And that was also a really fun team to just watch play for a national title, right? So like more of that team. But and then I look on the other side, on the flip side, you're like, well, then I take away one of the biggest wins in Pitt football history, right? Like, and maybe Pitt fans don't think that's one of the biggest wins, but I would, anytime you get to take your rival out of playing for a national title, I would consider that a pretty damn big win. So that's the one I'd go with, because I think with how crazy the 2007 season was, I think that's as good of an opportunity as there was going to be to get that, that BCS team to be from a non-power league at the time, or a smaller conference, I guess.
What a great time frame to bring up for this. The Big East days with like the good West Virginia teams and that peak of Rutgers. Like those were some good old college football days when the Big East was kind of bumping around down there. I like that callback. All right, let's go to your fandom one, Iowa, and a game that Iowa could have back in your mind.
Yeah. Easy. Big Ten title game. I mean, this is just knock the ball out of his hands. We don't give up a 10-minute drive to end the game. Then you're undefeated. You go get smoked by Alabama instead of Michigan State doing that. And I don't care. Like I would have been like, I think everybody would have known what they were getting into that year. That was a pretty damn good Alabama team. But to raise a trophy and be a Big Ten champion would have been pretty damn cool. Also would have saved me a lot of pain that night. So,
yeah. Well, I think one of the first questions I asked myself on the fan side for this one was, how much time do you have? Like, how many results would I flip? Every loss, I guess. So that's just how it goes. But I had to dial back for the college football one for this to 2007. Let's flash back to number 2 Kansas against number 4 Missouri at Arrowhead. Missouri takes down Kansas 36-28, then goes on to get beat by Oklahoma in the Big 12 title. Every team separates besides Oklahoma and wins their bowl game. But I think this game going to Kansas and them being undefeated and playing for a national title instead of in that Orange Bowl, which they still won and beat Va Tech, would have just been awesome for the sport. Like to see flashing back, just looking at pictures of Mark Mangino today would have been awesome. I mean, because that offense fed families, man. That Todd Reesing offense, they were putting up 60, 70 points a game on. They beat Nebraska that year 77-40. I mean, they
could imagine not message boards in Nebraska on the day of 2007 when they gave up that many points. Like I can only
it happened a couple times. It happened in Missouri earlier that season when we were ranked. That was just the Callahan era. Towards the end was really bad. I remember the only in-person experience I had as a Nebraska fan that I remember just getting dismantled outside of Oklahoma with Mickey Joseph was 45-6 game against Oklahoma State, the end of Bill Callahan's tenure. I was in a suite. I was like 7 years old. And we got just obliterated by Oklahoma State. It was the worst experience ever. I'm like, I'm never sitting in the club again. I haven't since.
Speaking of which, how about that team? 2011, if I was to beat them, that team was good enough for the national title that year.
That team could be Iowa.
Oklahoma State.
I thought you were talking about the Missouri team.
No, Oklahoma State in 2011. Was that?
They could have.
2011, right? And then they beat Stanford.
Was that like the Brandon
10-11?
Yeah,
Whedon.
Yeah, that would have been a good flashback. And on my fandom side, I think mine's probably a dead giveaway. I actually tweeted it out the other day.
Yeah,
I tweeted it out the other day, but my fandom side, and GA can probably give it a good guess of a recent my era of Nebraska to take back, and that's the ye old 1 second Mac Brown finger in the air Big 12 title game where Sue went for 7 sacks by himself. Probably would have won the Heisman Trophy if they ended up winning that game. Should have still.
Probably.
Yeah. And I would love to have that one back because I still have the Mac Brown flashbacks in my head once a day.
That one back because, like, we're going to the national title here. I mean, you knocked Texas to the national title, but
Jake.
Yeah, Mike sucks, but I got your question. I don't care. We still would have played in a New Year's Six game. I mean, we went and played in the Holiday Bowl and beat Nick Foles in Arizona by 40 points. So I would have liked to see us play in the Fiesta Bowl. We wouldn't have won the national title, but still,
that Arizona team. That Arizona team gave Iowa a fucking beating down in the desert that year.
That Nick Foles, that Arizona team was not bad.
Back when Iowa did a home and home with Arizona and Arizona State. Shit, bring me back. God, why ditch that? I don't know. He never went west again, though. I'll tell you that right now. He went down to Tempe one time too, and got pumped by one of those good Arizona State teams, and we never went back until UCLA, and then we got pumped that one too.
That 2005 to 2009 college football era, while most of the memories of that time with the end of Callahan for me were terrible, but like just that era of college football was so different with the teams and conferences and who was good and who could be good. Like I think a couple of years ago, I put a graphic out of like the 07 top 10 after week 8. And it was, Kansas at the top and like these teams in there that you were like, what in the hell is going on within this sport? And that is the peak of college football and what is a part of making us fall in love with the sport. So
that's going to be the old, son, pull up a chair. Let me tell you about 2007.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me tell you about Todd Reesing, a guy.
You heard of this guy named Mark Mangino? Huh?
Yeah, used to wipe his ass with the players' towels. Like that's the story you had to tell about Mark Mangino. But all right, that is the question of the day. That was a fun one. Let's go on to it's recent news in college football. It's a little lighter this week. Obviously, we're going to talk about one that's controversial between fans and players and people and even some of the media members I've heard come out and speak on this. But the recent news this week comes out of Colorado and Coach Prime. And Colorado, the Buffs have decided to retire Shedeur and Travis Hunter's number at the Buff spring game this year. You guys agree? You guys disagree? You agree with one and not the other? Jake, what do you think?
Travis is way too premature. Shedeur is ridiculous.
Can I dispute that?
I'm a big fan. I know because like for Iowa, like Luka Garza's jersey was retired.
Yeah.
Very fast after he was a Naismith Player of the Year award and very well deserving. But I think you give him a little bit of a pro career, let him breathe a little, bring him back for a special weekend in 5 or 10 years. Shedeur it's ridiculous. Like how Cordell Stewart's number's not retired at Colorado. How was Shedeur's? And I've seen people like in the Colorado media saying, just saying like, you guys don't understand what they've done for our program. Like, yeah, okay, they've brought like relevancy and a lot of media and limelight.
Find relevancy though,
dude. If we were gonna start retiring
the
numbers for media impressions, we are so fucked. The sport is beyond fucked.
The only I believe for Colorado, their only retired jersey number is their other Heisman Trophy winner. Can't remember the name of the top.
I can look that up for you. Know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a 1990 national champion.
Yeah, yes. And I would say you can retire Travis Hunter. Like, dude won the Heisman, but give it some time. You disagree about Travis Hunter?
He didn't lead a single stat. He didn't lead a single stat within the sport.
So you're just saying
he shouldn't have. He shouldn't have.
We're not going to do the coulda, shoulda, woulda game. He won the Heisman Trophy.
He shouldn't have.
Most valuable player in college football.
If Boise State would have retired Ashton Jeanty's number yesterday, it would have made more sense than Colorado doing it to Travis Hunter.
The Travis Hunter thing is a dumb argument, but I don't know. That's beside the point. And I don't know if it's like we want a bunch of people at this spring game this weekend. We need, butts in the seats kind of thing.
Someone's got to pay that extension.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but the Shador thing, I don't get. I mean,
12 and 13 as a starter.
Yeah. No, yeah. I think he's 13 and 10. He had above 500 record.
13 and 12. No, it was 12 and 13. I think it was sub 500.
He won. Yeah, you could be right.
Yeah, it was not good enough to get your number retired. But I think one of the things I've heard of people coming back and saying, well, he's going to be a first round pick. I don't know if that qualifies you to get your number retired at a school, but it's, I mean, JP, what do you think on it? Do you think neither of them? Do you think,
I kind of like I was just going to say, like, my only dispute, like Jake doing it too early is like, Iowa does it. And I don't love that either, but like if schools want to do it now to like keep that momentum rolling, I get it. But it would be damn cool for these kids to bring back their families and just come back in 15, 20 years and be like, like they get to really appreciate what their dad did or whatnot at that place and bring it's just another reason to, I don't know, make this event and bring someone back and relive those. I think the Travis one makes sense. I mean, guy was an animal, like Heisman Trophy winner. Like, if we're being honest, like if you win the Heisman Trophy, like you should be auto number retiree. If we're being honest, like,
yeah,
like I think a lot of places are like that, but Tebow's not. I can't imagine like a Kyler or a Baker are at Oklahoma anytime soon. But I would be like completely fine if they did. The Shador one, I tweeted out when this happened. I go, yeah, I'm sure this will start 0 social media fights. Everybody's going to be respectful about it on both sides. I don't get it.
I thought they should have done Shiloh too. Should the whole family.
They'll probably build a prime statue if they're retiring Shador's number. No, I'm
not
kidding.
You've gotten a lot of impressions. You're probably not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, I get it. He's a really good quarterback and like was really good for them, but it's not, he doesn't hold a candle in college football history to be remembered on the field for how good he was. And his impact on the game truly isn't going to be written about 25 years down the road. It might be written about at Colorado and be like, hey, one time we went 8-4 or 9-3. Like, to me, like, it's got to mean something. And it's probably a mix of like, yeah, they brought in a lot of money. So give him a distinguished award from the university and the school, not the football program.
I don't know. I don't know if they do like plaques up throughout the stadium of All-Americans or something. Just,
they don't do anything around that shithole.
Dude, retiring a number it's crazy. It's
kind of sacred in a lot of places.
Sacred. It's very sacred. Iowa State's never done one. Not that Iowa State's had great, players like that.
No, but if
Iowa State were to do it for Brock Purdy, it like would shock me.
Right. That's been the conversation, right? So it's like, what has Shador done? I mean, the guy hasn't even been drafted yet. The whole like they're
Brock
doing
Purdy
it.
Can't be the first number retiree there. I think there's better ones.
Well, we're not going to get into the Iowa State side of things. Keep it Colorado.
Shit.
Doing it in April that's even crazier to me. Like the way they've done it so fast and not like doing it maybe during like homecoming next year or something. The occasion and the timing of it is just bizarre. I find it is strange.
Bizarre. It's not even cool.
No,
like spring game. Wow. Really respecting them and like getting people to come back for it.
I thought we're
Like
trying to
open
get
that
people
SOB up
not
with somebody
to
in
spring
town.
games.
I don't know. It's to me, I don't really understand it. And I think like how much of it was really like political, like how do we keep Prime happy? How do we keep this thing happy? How do we keep this brand like growing? Like, I don't know. I feel like it was a little bit of an overreach and a desperate move for something, but I don't know.
I hope the team at Colorado, as they're putting up like the numbers or names wherever they do on that stadium, repaint the stairs while you're at it. I'm tired of walking on that rust in that shithole. But all right, let's leave the retiree jersey numbers there
for YouTube. I feel like that's a good YouTube clip. And
we're gonna make so many people mad. You guys should have seen what you guys did talking about the extension. I mean, Colorado fans.
We didn't even do anything wrong. It was taken.
It's still taken out of context.
They just did less than 2 seconds longer.
Right. He goes, it's kind of an overpay, but I think it's kind of worth it. And people were just heard
overpay. You're an asshole, loser, idiot, hater. That's classic college football fans. That is exactly what happened. But all right, let's go to Alabama. Different news. Some news came out. We finally got a little update in the quarterback room over for the Crimson Tide. Offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb announced that if spring practice were to end today, going into the spring game this weekend, Ty Simpson would have the job as the Crimson Tide starter. Do we like that? Is it shocking? What do you guys think? Jake?
I think it goes with a lot of merit because there could be a competition one or a battle change in August, but it really feels like coming out of spring, if he's going to say that, it feels like Alabama has found their guy, a top 5 quarterback in his class in the 2022 class, I believe. He's a redshirt junior. He's played in 16 games. He was the one who stuck with DeBoer through the Saban change. He's like, nope, I'm staying. I'll be Milroe's backup. It's going to be good. So it really feels like it's their guy. Now, I know they like Austin Mack, the backup who came with DeBoer from Washington, but also the backup feels like Keelan Russell's to take. He was the number 2 rated player in the 2025 class, going to be a true freshman. Keep an eye out for him, but this feels like a really good transition between probably what feels like the next 2 years with Simpson under DeBoer, and then Russell takes over and is kind of like, almost feels like, we'll get on that topic later, but almost like a Milton to Nico kind of situation transition, hopefully a little smoother, a little more successful, right? But yeah. I do think this is a good sign. I do like what Ty Simpson could bring for Alabama this year.
Yeah, I think it'll offer a little bit of a different look, like you mentioned. I mean, we've seen the couple of past Kalen DeBoer offenses with Michael Penix, who wasn't a go-ahead runner like I would say Milroe is more, but he had the ability more to run than I want to say Ty Simpson will or has shown in his film at least. So we'll see how he does as a pocket presence. I mean, you saw what DeBoer's offense did for Michael Penix and what he could do with accurate passing. So if Simpson's an accurate passer, look for him to put up some numbers. So definitely an interesting name to follow throughout this season. And obviously the Crimson Tide will have a lot of eyes on him. JP, what do you think?
Yeah, I just think this is, if you're this confident in it, that just tells me that there's not going to be a real fall camp battle. And I think that's okay with the people in Tuscaloosa, and I think that's okay with the fan base as well. Just look at what Ty Simpson is kind of built up to be, and what Ryan Grubb kind of has an idea of this picture of his offense. I think Ty Simpson fits that mold. Very Penix-ish, the ability to throw the football, kind of athletic enough to make things happen with his legs. And I honestly think this instills a lot of confidence in the kid. Like when you're going to say, hey, I'm that confident to say that to the media, I think that goes a long way for a kid. And not to say like, obviously you have to play like kind of like Jenga with your roster at times. Like you got to poke one side out, make sure it stays together, right? Not knock anything over. Maybe that had some effects on possibly keeping kids out of the portal or pushing kids into the portal. But it sounds like the understanding in Tuscaloosa is this has been the situation the whole time. So I think that's a big thing too. I think that always goes kind of unappreciated or unrecognized, just the real confidence it can give a kid to name him a starter or put his name out there that you have confidence in him this early before he's even started a game for you.
Yeah, it's been quite a while since I think Alabama fans have had the, who's going to be our guy come football season in the springtime. Like, I think this was kind of the first raise of the question, because usually you have a 5-star, 6-star, even recruit feels like coming in and they're going to take the keys to the car when Saban was in town. What were you going to say, Jake?
Well, JP mentioned the word underappreciated, and I think that's really well said because we could list 5 big brand schools right now that probably aren't 100% sure who's going to be their quarterback come August, September. There are a lot of fresh new faces at the quarterback position, which I think is going to make this season a lot more exciting than people even realize right now. But yeah, I think having your guy at this point is a huge win for Alabama in general.
All right, that is it for recent news. It was a little lighter on that front today, but we got a lot to cover. Let's talk about the transfer portal. But before we do that, let's take a break. If you're just here, just joining us, hit the like button on the video. Go head over to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button. Let's get to 900 by the end of the week. That's our goal. So if you're listening to this on repeat, recap, live, whatever you're doing, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel. We appreciate it more than you know. And shop No Rivals and use the code PTFS at checkout for free shipping on all of your awesome collegiate hats, adding teams, designs by the day. So check them out every day and use that code when you check out on all those awesome looks. All right, let's go to the transfer portal. The window is open. The 10-day starts now. Today is Wednesday when we are recording this or when we are doing this live. Let's go into some big names. Let's go through the list that is out there right now. It's probably even changed by the time we started this show, but let's start where everybody wants to have that conversation, and that is Nico Iamaleava. Nico Iamaleava obviously didn't have an agreement with Tennessee this past week. We got to post our clips out there. There was a lot of takes, a lot of funny jokes rolling around social media. It is said to be that he is going to be a UCLA Bruin and play for Deshaun Foster. That is not for sure. I've seen so many different reports out there, so we'll know for sure hopefully by the end of tomorrow. What is your guys' thoughts on his situation since we've talked last, plus the thought of him at UCLA, Jake?
I want to say a little bizarre, but it feels like there's not what's the downside for UCLA at this point? Except the fact that, I don't know if you guys remember, they brought in Joey Aguilar in the winter, and the rumor is they paid him $1.2 million. So they're saying right now, like, Nico is taking a discount on what he's probably going to get from UCLA. Colin Cowherd said, he talks to the family. It's not about the money. Yeah, okay, fine. That wasn't why he left Tennessee in the first place, right? But just weird. So keep an eye out on maybe what Aguilar might do in the next few
remind
days.
people who Aguilar is. Just we're pulling names.
That's a good point. He's Appalachian State's former starting quarterback last year. Was an all-conference guy. Was supposed to be first team all Sun Belt a year ago. Kind of had a disappointing season, but I think he's got a lot of potential and will be good wherever he does land and or stays. And the weird thing about all of this, is Nico's brother Madden was actually committed to UCLA last year before decommitting and flipping over to Arkansas. So there's just a lot of weird little ties into this situation that feels like the right situation for Nico at this point, because it doesn't feel like there's a lot of options out there, but still does feel kind of bizarre and like a plan B for both parties.
I definitely think Nico is a valuable option to any offense. I mean, we haven't seen the brightest side of him and his ceiling or even near it, what we thought it was going to be after his true freshman performance against Iowa in the Cheez-It Bowl. But I don't love the thought of him being in my team's conference. I mean, but he's an elite player, or at least he has the ability to be. So under the right circumstances, in the right scheme, I think he can flourish, and UCLA might be that option. But one thing I was more upset about was his talks going to Tulane. I think that would have fed families and me. I mean, what an opportunity that would have been for the Green Wave to have, the 5-star quarterback, superstar, and they just couldn't get the deal done. And then North Carolina, whatever, Belichick's trying to throw fire at the wind and get a quarterback over there. But my God, I was just upset about the Tulane news. JP, what's your take on this look?
New OC over there in Westwood. So I believe Sinceri is taking play calling duties over there. If the offense was obviously, it might have been part of the decision, and to say that was the whole decision is clearly wrong and just false and ignorant to say as a family member if you're in that camp, right?
Yeah.
But to go somewhere with an unexperienced coaching staff, an inexperienced offensive coordinator, and the question mark of how talented are you going to be around him? I think that's the bigger news. Is like, I think it got to a point where it was like, we got to find a spot that works and roll with it. You obviously hope that this works out for the kid, because you don't want money to be something that derails his future and development and ability to earn money down the road in the NFL and whatnot. But, you know, it's tough to say what it really will come down to and how things will work out. But it's just, it'll be the first example of like, hey, here's how to not handle this stuff. And hopefully the last, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to lead the Nico situation. We'll see where he ends up for sure shortly, I'm sure, and we will keep you updated through that. All right, let's go down kind of the list of players. Obviously, some of these are bigger names than others. Some of them names you might not have heard of, but are impact players going new places. I'll go through one at a time, and then we'll discuss that if you have a point. If not, that's great. We'll move on. Let's start with David Bailey, the edge / linebacker, kind of dual threat guy for Stanford. He was a top 15 transferred. 2024, 22 solo tackles and 7 sacks. He is on his way to Lubbock to play at Texas Tech for McGuire and company. Jake, in the Big 12, what do you think about this move? Big pickup for Texas Tech.
This is kind of positive news for Texas Tech if you're going into the spring portal, because obviously they still have some money left over from the winter cycle, because this is the number one team ranking class in the entire transfer portal era. And for them to pick up a guy like Bailey is another big step. I just think of like they picked up Zambrano, who was a 4-star offensive tackle in the winter from Illinois State. And now they have another guy on the other side of the ball. It's kind of like, we'll get to it, it's kind of like some of these Cal players. You wonder if they really had to pay much for Stanford, for a Stanford recruit, right? Because it's like, was he really getting paid that much by Stanford in the first place? Kind of getting like 50 cents on the dollar. You kind of wonder there, but nonetheless, was Stanford's best defensive player. It's definitely another big pickup for Texas Tech.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's starting to inch my way in. Of course, as we go closer to preview season, restoring my faith in the Red Raiders, who I've been high on the last couple of years, and they've done nothing but let me down a little bit. That's just where I see it. JP, any thoughts on Texas Tech's transfer portal era, including this edition?
We're going to talk about the guy that transferred out of there and now is transferring again. How about Micah Hudson? This kid's a 5-star wide receiver, played last year in Lubbock, hit the portal after the season, ended up at A&M, and then today hit the portal again. Now, I assume if it's that quick of a flip, it's probably completely the fit. Like he just didn't enjoy it there.
Playing
something
time
didn't work
based.
out there. But, you know, it's just curious of like, did he burn bridges in Lubbock? Or because everybody's going to call and ask, right? And so you just want to know what's going on there. They're going to, if Tech's willing to throw some more money around or give him the deal he had last year, I'm curious if he'll end up back that way. But that was one that I saw today that I was kind of surprised to see, I guess.
Well, and A&M brought in like KC Concepcion and a couple of other big time receivers. So I don't really know what this kid expects. It was the biggest recruit in Texas Tech history. And now he's like, I don't know. From everything I've listened to, it sounds like he's even maybe thinking like G5 route, like for a year and kind of grow his name up again.
Yeah, I think it's a playing time thing. I mean, looking at his last season, 8 receptions for 124 yards is all they put up. Granted, yes, true freshman year, but just bouncing around. It's like thinking your name's bigger than they are. Like you said, you could be the star player at your high school, and then all of a sudden you're just a fish in the pond when you get to these big time programs. So maybe he'll stick out of the G5, but definitely another name worth noting. Good call on that, JP. Going down the line, let's move to the offensive tackle position. Xavier Hill, the Memphis Tiger, is on his way to Boulder for play for Coach Prime. He was first team All-American Athletic Conference last year in 2024. Obviously, in addition, Colorado needed. They've had their offensive line struggle since Prime got there. Another Big 12 guy, Jake, is obviously a good move for Colorado, but bigger than people realize, right?
Yeah, I think it's another guy you could put on the opposite side of Seton, who people don't remember last year, 5-star kid, started as a true freshman. Hill wasn't a giant recruit as a transfer prospect. He was about a 3, maybe fringe 4-star, still first team all conference at the American level. And
on a team that threw the ball a lot.
Yes, exactly. And that on top of it, it's going to be a dime a dozen for these offensive tackles that have significant playing time. So for them to get him early, he might be a grad transfer. I think that was why he was able to commit so fast. I'm not exactly sure, but it was good on Colorado to get him as fast as he could, because the market's already going up for both offense and defensive line.
Yeah.
Offensive tackles are expensive. JP, what do you think on this acquisition for the Buffs?
I think anything on the offensive line is going to help everybody.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at kind of just through the offensive line portal. Like there's been a lot of teams that invested in it. Looking at Oklahoma that really spent some time in the portal for the offensive line. I believe Oregon went and got a couple, Tech went and got a couple. Like there are people out there to go get and really help yourself out. I just think any offensive line addition is always good, whether you're just building depth, whether you need a guy to really fill a hole. I just kind of think it's a hard one to hit on in the portal because not many of them move and then they have to gel, right? Like you have to gel your offensive line. They can't just plug and play in most situations. And they go for top dollar. So it's hard to get him onto campus or even to visit. So I think for him, what does that really do to the offensive line? Does it really shore up that left side? And how comfortable does that then get whoever decides they're going to play quarterback in Boulder?
Yeah, I think, Jake, I want to bring up your text to us the other day. You said Caden Salter at Colorado feels like what?
What did I compare that to?
I think you said somebody.
No. Emory Jones
at
Cincinnati. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Emory had gone from Arizona State to Florida, so he bounced around the Power 5 level. But again, it kind of feels like a little bit of an undersized, legs first, not a great pocket passer. But we'll wait and see. I mean, you see what like Prime and that offensive coordinator can do together. They're going to rely on him to make plays if he is the guy. I mean, I think Juju's performing really well. I'm interested to see what we hear out of the spring game this weekend.
Yeah, you gotta feel like Juju's the guy there, right? Like,
if he does kind of play really well, does this Salter hit the portal again?
Would it surprise you at this point?
No, but why would you stay if your whole thought process? If your whole thought process was you're going to go there and play for a year, and then this kid's just good enough to play right away, why would you stay?
Lewis was a guy who reclassified, so I think he could technically still be a senior in high school. So this still feels like Salter is a much older bridge guy. Like I would be very surprised if we see Juju Lewis play and start a game next year.
Yeah, it's going to be just detrimental to that offense if they don't find a guy to run through it like Shedeur does. I mean, Shedeur, the way he could pass, and he was still a very, very good quarterback. I know I made my comments earlier, but when they would go to their backup, when Staub would come into the game for them, how bad or significantly worse. Right. So, I mean, it's a huge part of that offense going forward. So definitely a storyline to follow for the Buffs in the Big 12. Let's go down to the next name. Let's go to the G5 and let's talk Gio Lopez leaving South Alabama. Rumored to be talking with UNC pretty heavily, like I mentioned earlier. Sounds like Belichick's really trying to find a quarterback over there. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is me throwing it out there. We don't know everything here, but we like to talk to sport. Is Briswell gone over there, the backup for Max Johnson last year?
And they lost another kid today. The kid that came in from Purdue.
Yeah.
Okay. See, there you go. So they're in need.
Max Johnson feels like the only guy that's
and he's not healthy
at this point. No, and he's coming off of a bad knee injury.
Yeah, I forget how nasty that was week 1. That was disgusting.
They would have won that game. Well, I'm sorry, they did win that game. They would have won it more handily if he stayed in that game. But just the way their season went after that, I think they gave up 985 points to, was it App State? Like 2 weeks later. It was just it was James Madison. Like 2 weeks later, that season went downhill fast. Ended up Mac Brown getting kicked out the door, and here comes Bill Belichick. Maybe he can land Gio Lopez, the South Alabama quarterback, threw for over 2,500 yards last year, 18 scores with 5 picks. We watched G5 football. It was a Thursday night team, week in and week out, so you probably saw him more often than you thought. This would be a nice addition. I think he offers something to this team and a new look. What do you think on it, JP?
I think he's going to be a good addition anywhere in some ways. I think he's pretty darn good at not turning it over and really handling offenses and being able to throw the football in accurate spots. That South Alabama team had a pretty high-flying offense. It helps when the run game's good with Fluff. But you remember Fluff's now a Mississippi State Bulldog. And, Gio, I think, is one of those G5 quarterbacks people forgot about until they turned him on. Like you kind of said, Thursday night, they're like looking for something to bet or something's on. They're like, oh, I heard this kid's pretty good. And then maybe that's a name that'll live in some college kid's brain forever because you won a Thursday night bet at the bar with the fellas. But I think he's a great couple-year guy to get you to maybe a kid who has a higher upside. Not saying that Gio doesn't have a higher upside, but, like one of those bridge quarterbacks. And I think he's a little better than your normal bridge guy, but nonetheless, I think his purpose is exactly that. And I think he understands that. And I think whoever brings him in understands that.
Yeah, and one benefit I think to these players coming in, especially like Gio Lopez, is just the experience. The in-game experience it gives a higher price to these quarterbacks within the portal, and definitely would be of use. Any thoughts from you on Gio Lopez, Jake?
Yeah, I think it would be a fun fit. I think he's a really exciting player. Him and Max Johnson couldn't be two polar opposite quarterbacks. Yeah. So whichever route Belichick would go, if they do land him, it would be kind of fascinating. I think he's a fun guy who's got a much higher ceiling than Max Johnson does. Like you barely tapped into the potential of what he could be. I don't know exactly how good Gio Lopez really could be, but I think there's some things there that he went under the radar as a 3-star recruit, kind of got his footing at South Al, and now maybe you really find something here in Chapel Hill. But it's just kind of – this is exciting, but also kind of sucks at the same time because I really thought they were going to keep him because he stayed – he didn't play in that bowl game, if you remember right, but then he thought he was going to stick around, and now you're seeing in a lot of springtime these FCS and G5 guys are out the door. It just kind of sucks because you thought they were going to stick around through the winter cycle.
All right, let's leave that one there. Going down the line to the next name, let's talk former Cal star running back Jadyn Ott heads to Norman, Oklahoma to play alongside John Mateer for Brett Venables. This is a nice addition. The 2024 stats on Ott are a little skewed. He was injured for a good part of the season, missed some big-time games, still over 100 carries for 385 yards and 4 scores. A healthy Jadyn Ott is very, very good and a very, very big piece for any offense as JP does the OTT Ott to go. Shout out to the Calgorithm, but huge loss for Cal. JP, what do you think about this acquisition for Venables and company?
I think I talked about this last night with you, Parks. I think this very much solidifies what Oklahoma wants to be under Venables. This is a team that's going to want to be able to run the football. It's a different approach than having Arnold last year or Hawkins last year under center with Mateer, but the running back improves when you bring in a guy like this. And so it's clear that they wanted the offensive line to get beefed up. Check. Did it in the portal. It's just got to pay off. Go get a quarterback you think you're confident in. Check. Did that. Go get an offensive coordinator. Check. Did that. Now you bring in a stud in the backfield who's, let's be honest, the game-breaking ability in some ways. I think just playing at Cal, I think you got a real sniff of it in the Miami game, but got to stay healthy. This kid has to stay healthy. He's got some health problems in some random spots, and that really stinks, and you'd hate to see his year playing in the SEC be riddled by injuries. But I think this 100% tells you what Oklahoma wants to be. Really good on defense, runs the ball really well, takes care of the football, and pretty beefy in the trenches and able to push people around. So it's intriguing to me. I'm more excited about watching this Oklahoma team than I have some Oklahoma teams in the past. I think this one it's driven by players that you like to watch. And so to watch Oklahoma here is not the same hate people used to have for Oklahoma, and how infuriating I got when Caleb Williams and Spencer Rattler were going back and forth with that fan base for just chanting one, then one would stink for a little bit and they'd chant for the other and go back and forth. I'm a little more excited to watch this Oklahoma team.
Yeah, it's almost like a Nebraska situation where their recent, I don't want to say failures because they've been significantly better than Nebraska was in their bad time, but it brought their fan base down a little bit to where the expectation wasn't a Big 12 title every year and winning the Red River game. And then now they're just a player in the SEC. So these moves and the fans and how things will change for this program are definitely going to be something to follow. Jake, your thoughts on Jadyn Ott heading to OU?
Yeah, obviously a good land. I think when he's healthy, this was a top 5 running back in college football, even like 2 years ago. He's just didn't have the year he was supposed to last year. And this guy has a huge opportunity to be really good. But we got to remember, too, Oklahoma still has Gavin Sawchuk. I believe I got that name right. The Sawchuk is the running back who played a lot of time last year. So maybe this is good for Jadyn Ott, who doesn't have to be the number 1 horseback and take every single carry, especially in the SEC against these defenses. I think it's a good little tandem. I think they actually even have a third option. I just can't think of the name on the top of my head. So more depth to that running back room. I think JP nailed it with like the identity of what Oklahoma wants to be offensively this year. You got it. And you're partnering it with a very mobile quarterback.
And I'm sure JP will bring up Oklahoma towards the end of the show for our final transfer portal question. So we'll talk on them soon. Let's go to the last name we have on the list. Trevor Pena, the Syracuse wide receiver who had a massive 2024 campaign, racking up 84 receptions for over 900 yards and 9 scores, announced he is leaving the Qs for somewhere to be determined. Wherever he lands will be a nice wide receiver pickup. Do you see any potential landing spots? Potentially. We just had that conversation, Jordan, about that team. Where would you like to see a guy like this end up, if not Iowa City?
Yeah, I mean, you look at a kid like this, there's a lot of money out there for receivers, and guys will go get paid in a lot of spots. Like, schools want playmaking receivers, and there's schools who need them, if we're being honest. I think Georgia filled that need pretty quick on their end. There's plenty of other ones out there. Texas refilled, Miami. Like, there's plenty of options out there, and I think that's it's tough for Syracuse to keep a kid like that, right? When there's a turnover at quarterback, there's turnover in some other spots. And to me, it's just maybe the kid wants a little more money. It's simple as that, like in some ways. And it's I feel like I'm not giving really anything intuitive here, but I feel like it's a very basic transfer, and it's a very basic answer on where he'll end up and how he'll work out and who will pay him. Like, it's going to be teams who need a star receiver or a guy to fill the 2 or 3 slot, who throw the football a ton and need a reliable guy on the outside. I feel like this carbon copy for the receivers is very portal-ish. Like, that's where we're going to look back on and be like, receivers got paid. There's 30 of them every year. All the big schools took them, and then the rest of them kind of sat in some other spots.
Jake, any feeling coming from you? For some reason, I don't know why. Don't ask me why, because I'm not going to be able to give you a full reason. This just feels like Missouri to me. What do you think, Jake?
Missouri's done a decent job in the portal. Like, Kevin Coleman from Mississippi State, I think is going to be really good for them next year. I was looking at, I don't want to get sidetracked here, but look at Missouri's transfer class from the winter. It's really, really good. Like, I am excited about what Missouri could be next year.
Got one less this week, but yeah, we'll go into him next.
Right. But I feel I just said right.
I know, but that was kind of a jokingly right. Like,
no,
we're not gonna shit talk him. But go ahead. No.
Like I said, I think Miami's the fit here. I think Miami will get into our
Strepo replacement,
our topic here in a little bit, but they were kind of slow in the winter, didn't get a ton of names, just lost another receiver, a former 4-star, to the portal like yesterday or today. So this feels Miami, Texas is a good spot, but I do feel like he's going to land at a school that can pay for him, because I don't think, like JP said, I don't think any of these smaller schools are going to just give a bunch of money to this guy who's on 75% of the Power 4 schools. He's probably a 1B or your second best receiver. He's not head and shoulders the best guy on campus if you pay him for that. So I don't think the risk is there for a team like SMU or Louisville, whoever that may be.
All right, we'll see where Pena ends up here within the next 10 days. Let's go to the last name we have to discuss tonight before we ask our final question, and that is the name from a Nebraska Cornhusker, Mekhi Bayer, transferred to Missouri in the winter portal season. He was a part of that nice class they brought in. He announced yesterday that he is transferring out, entered in with the do not contact tag, and landed at North Carolina today to play for Bill Belichick. This is interesting and a nice addition for Bill Belichick and what he's trying to build over there at North Carolina. He was a really good player for Nebraska on their top 10 defense last year, a consistent player, and it's a big loss for Missouri. Why do you think a guy at a linebacker position would go to a school and then leave it right away? Do you think it would just be playing time based, JP?
Everybody needs pass rushers, and they're willing to pay.
Yeah, it's money thing. He's going to your school. You're wearing the Tar Heels.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had this on today, but the market for receivers, I feel like, is very carbon copy. There's a lot of versions of a lot of different guys who are very similar. Defensive linemen are hard to find in the portal. A lot of them kind of stay where they are, and if they do leave, they get paid, and they get paid a lot. We watched that in the cycle last year. Oregon grabbed a couple of guys. It was like, they're really going to pay him $700,000 or whatever it was. This is like, I'm just saying, like, if North Carolina's talking about spending money, this is a kid they would go pay, because getting after the quarterback changes games. It alters defenses and really changes who you can be as a team. So I'm not going to say it was just money based, but it can't hurt to think about it, and guys will pay pass rushers.
Good point. Jake, any thought on Mekhi Bayer headed to a new school back-to-back within not even a season change?
You know how much I hate transferring twice within a span of 4 months. But good on North Carolina, because that's another name we haven't even mentioned, like Bo Atkinson, defensive end from North Carolina transferring out. He's linked to probably Georgia or another other SEC school. He was going to be their best defensive end on the team heading into next year. Now he's out. So, you get a little bit of a replacement there. So at least they're actively like trying to, fill spots for these guys and at least have a serviceable roster for Belichick in year one.
All right. That is all the names we wanted to go through tonight on names in the transfer portal. Maybe have landed. Some of them haven't. We'll keep you updated throughout that process and obviously keep the conversation rolling next week of who landed where and maybe who entered if it's a big enough name. All right. To finish the show tonight, let's ask one final question to both of you. Is there any teams you feel like need to be in contention for a specific position? For example, you think Penn State needs a wide receiver. You think Oklahoma needs another defensive lineman. Are there any names or teams that you feel like jump off the page here on April 16th that you're like, man, they really need that piece to become a really good contender or just a competitive team? Jake?
Yeah, we just mentioned them with kind of linked to Atkinson, but I think Georgia needs to go in the portal and get like something to their front seven, whether it's linebacker, defensive end. They need to fill something in that spot. They've picked up 6 guys in the portal. Do you guys know that there's 3 receivers and 3 safeties? Those are the guys that they've got. And we understand like the back end of the Georgia defense kind of wasn't what it used to be. And so I get trying to fill those spots, but now is the time to go replace somebody on your kind of defensive end outside linebacker spot, because you've lost. I think it was Jones was the 5-star, one of the only 5-star transfers. He's heading to Missouri. So maybe you go for a guy like Atkinson. Maybe you get a guy from Army like Elo Mendoza, who's a top 50 transfer right now. There are, weirdly enough, scarcity in offensive linemen, but there's a good amount of edge rushers, not defensive tackles, but edge rushers. And I think Georgia can capitalize on, grabbing at least one.
JP, any thoughts on teams that need to be in contention for a specific position? We talked about one last night, and I'm going to piggyback on it if you drop it right here.
Who did we talk about one last night? I don't know if the one I was going to bring up. I think Michigan still needs to grab a receiver too. I think they need a playmaker. They did. Now they did do this. Like they grabbed the kid from Indiana. I just want to make sure I say this right. McCulley, Donovan McCulley from Indiana, and then they brought in Anthony Simpson from UMass as well. 2 good pieces, 2 different kinds of receivers. I still think they need a guy that can go up and get anything and a real playmaker on the outside. So that was the one I was going to highlight because
Pena from Syracuse.
I could say defensive line for everybody because a lot of people need defensive line depth and interior defensive tackles. But I wanted to kind of hone in on one school, one position. So I went with Michigan. So I'll let you have the one we talked about last time. I'm trying to recall what we chatted about.
Yeah, Oklahoma needs some wide receivers. I think what we talked about, them being a pretty run-based offense with Jadyn Ott, the name Jake mentioned, and John Mateer. I think if you get too one-dimensional, you can kind of get questionable within SEC play. So I think 1 or 2, even 2 middle-of-the-pack names besides 1 big name could be huge for this offense. Give weapons to Mateer, give him another look. So I think Oklahoma could go out and get, a big wide receiver because – you saw what happened to that offense when they lost guys like Andrew Anthony. Like they took a significant step back. So within that system being successful, I think they need a couple of names there. Any other schools that you feel like need to focus on a position? Jake or JP, open floor now.
Are we worried about the offensive line depth at in Ohio State right now? Or
it was a huge question last year, right?
I feel like some schools filled that hole pretty quick. Like a Texas Tech went out and got some offensive linemen. Oregon did it as well. But
I was just looking at Ohio State. They picked up I forgot they picked up somebody from Minnesota, an offensive tackle in the winter. So there's a little bit, but I do agree. Like a team like Ohio State probably doesn't feel as depth or as heavy as they did even just a year ago. They lost a lot of good tackles and defensive ends, like on both sides. I think there's a lot of spots to be filled with them.
One that came up to me was the wide receiver position. I think you need maybe 1 more experienced name at Colorado because of the impact LaJohntay Wester had for that team last year and how big he was within the offense. You get Horn back, you get Will Shepherd back, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But just with how big Wester was, with taking away from attraction from Travis Hunter, I think they could go out and get one more for whatever quarterback's back there. What are you saying, Jake?
I was going to say I agree because I think Will Shepard's in the draft.
Okay, so yeah, they definitely need one or two then.
That's a good poll. JP, you had one?
How about Tulane in quarterback?
Yeah.
Like it's a random
I thought they were going to get one. Damn it, Nico.
Jadyn Rashada? That's what
Do we like it enough? Do they have anything
no,
behind it?
But Finley's not going to be playing football anymore, so you got to.
I feel like they've had an established guy for so long there. It's like you kind of want somebody now, and instead of like kind of playing that in limbo thing.
Well, they had Finley was supposed to be the guy from all my understanding, and now he got in that legal trial.
He was supposed to be a guy in general. He couldn't do that, so I don't think he was the guy there.
So he's out. No, I definitely it's obvious Tulane's trying to grab somebody. I don't know who. I think Gio Lopez would be a lot of fun at Tulane. I think that
Caden Salter quarterback.
They have a decent amount of NIL from my understanding compared to their peers in the G5 they do.
Yeah, they've got some support down there in NOLA for sure.
Caden Salter's going to end up there after he leaves here in the next couple of days.
I was just about to comment on that, JP. That would be so, and then it would just tank. I could just see it tanking Tulane season, which nobody wants. I like when the Green Wave's good fan base, good following there. But all right, that is everything. That is everything we wanted to cover tonight. Any additional pieces, comments, questions about the transfer portal from you guys before I wrap up the show?
Buckle up, buckle up, buckle up.
Yeah, buckle in. I mean, click it or ticket because this is going to be a crazy ride over the next 10 days. We'll do our best to cover everything we can and mention it on next week's show. We appreciate you being here. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Hit the follow button on all of our platforms at Play the Fight Pod. Stay tuned for our fun show news coming up shortly. We love you. We'll see you next week for another college football conversation all off season long. Jake, take us away.
Happy Easter. Play it.